Here to react is Florida GOP Senator Marco Rubio. Good morning, Senator.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Good morning. Do they have a shot at this?
I don't think so, but nonetheless, we have to fight it. In fact, I'd like to see and I say I don't think so. I mean, obviously, if they change the rules, everything's off the table at that point, and a lot can happen. But look, they've been wanting to do this for a long time. It's interesting. There was no problem with the courts up until a Republican president was elected and started appointing people to vacancies. Now there's a problem with the courts. The courts have been where they have done things for 25 years that they couldn't get done through the legislative branch. Like they couldn't get a bill passed in Congress, or they couldn't get a bill passed by a state legislature, so they went to a court and they got it done. Well, now that there are conservative judges and judges that will interpret the Constitution the way it was written on the bench, suddenly we got a crisis in the courts, and that needs to be now looked at. So, look, this is a pure political ploy. That's all it is. It's hardball politics. It's sad that it isn't being covered that way by most outlets, but that's what it is.
You know, what's amazing, Senator, is if the only way they could pass it is to get rid of the filibuster. Do you believe that they have every Democrat on board with this? I mean, many of you guys are lawyers. I mean, they have to have more respect for our constitutional process than this. It's been in place since 1869.
Well, I think privately, most Democrats, or many Democrats here in the Senate at least, would probably tell you they wish we wouldn't do it, because once you do that, right, if you add 2 more justices to the Supreme Court so you can get the majority of what you think are your appointees on there, then when the other side takes over, they're going to add 2 more. We'll have like 30 people, 40 people on the Supreme Court one day if we continue that trend line. But that doesn't mean it won't or couldn't happen. Here's why. The pressure that comes on these guys is extraordinary. I mean, the beating that they take from the far left, the threats to primary them, and we've already seen far left candidates primarying and taking out longtime Democrat incumbents. They're the majority leader here in the Senate, I believe, is scared of being primaried, so they'll come after these guys. And so ultimately, you've seen people cave and do what they know is wrong because of that fear.
You're exactly right. Chuck Schumer is concerned about that primary and is willing to go as far left as necessary, and others giving him cover for that is an important component. But we just had something, Senator, across the wire for us. We've got to get your comment on. I don't know if you've seen it as well, but it just happened that Biden issued an executive order declaring Russia as a threat to national security. Here's a portion of it. It says, I hereby report that I have issued an executive order declaring a national emergency with respect to the unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States posed by specified harmful foreign activities of the government of the Russian Federation. Senator, what do you make of declaring Russia and their threat now, today, a national emergency?
Well, that's really not a statement per se. It's a technicality, or it's a legality. What it does is it gives the president emergency powers to do certain things, and this is in response to the SolarWinds situation and the hack that happened there. And so my guess is that, not my guess, I'm pretty certain of it, that the reason why you do an executive order of this kind, why you issue that sort of emergency declaration, is because it now opens up extraordinary powers from the executive branch to take certain specified actions that might not otherwise be there. I mean, we've seen these things invoked in the past in order to allow the imposition of sanctions, for example, that may not be statutorily authorized. And so my guess is that's what it is. I think there'll be a response to that hack. It was a very serious breach of, it's a supply chain breach, right? So what they did is they didn't go after a company. They went after a software that a lot of people use. And by getting into that software, they got into all kinds of businesses that use that software. And it wasn't just SolarWinds. I mean, we've seen Microsoft be impacted by it and others. And it's not just the Russians. The Chinese are very much involved in doing these sorts of things. The Iranians want to do these sorts of things. This is going to be an ongoing threat that's going to impact every part of our economy and leave vulnerabilities in our country, not just elections, but water systems, critical infrastructure, all the sorts of utilities, power plants, things of this nature. It's a very serious situation.
Do you support President Biden withdrawing all U.S. troops from Afghanistan by September 11th?
Look, I wish that the situation in Afghanistan were different, right? I wish that there was an Afghan government that was strong and a Taliban that was headed towards defeat. That said, that's not the trends this has taken. The previous administration, the Trump administration, declared that on May 1st we were leaving. And once that was put in place, I think it was a fait accompli. I think my concern at this point now is the following, and that is, it's tragic what's going to happen in Afghanistan. I believe, unfortunately, the Taliban's going to take over that country, or large portions of it. And it's going to be terrible just imagine if you're an Afghan woman or girl who's been going to school. Just imagine if you're one of these people that's been out there working with us to go after the Taliban, what's going to happen to you and your family. And that's terrible. But on top of that, what I'm really concerned about for America is Al-Qaeda is now going to reconstitute in Afghanistan. They're going to find a safe haven. And only sustained pressure is what's kept those groups from being able to attack us in the homeland again. If we're not going to be in Afghanistan, we have to have a plan to sustain pressure on Al-Qaeda wherever they pop up, including Afghanistan, or we're going to face the same threat we faced on September 11, 2001 at some point in the future, and that's unacceptable.
Yeah, Senator, it's just unbelievable that we're doing this. We're giving up any type of looking glass into China, into Pakistan, into Iran, even into Russia. We're deciding, okay, we'll turn it over to those many cases outlaw nations. And you know, thankfully we haven't lost a guy in this year, and only lost 2 last year, and there was more lost in training accidents. So they were playing a major role. And I think Joe Biden's trying to keep his record of being wrong on every single national security issue throughout his career, as Bob Gates has brought up.
Yeah, I would say about Afghanistan, it's unfortunate with the way it's taken its turn. I mean, there has to come a point in which U.S. engagement ends, right? We can't be there forever. And, you know, I think we're down to 5,000 military troops on the ground there. There was a drawdown by the Trump administration. And unfortunately, the Afghan government's never built the sort of situation where they have real stability. Now, that doesn't mean we walk away from them, but I'm very concerned about what that's going to mean if Al-Qaeda comes back in.
Senator, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.